The Secret Garden in June, part 1. Now it's late June and it's very early in the morning, barely 6 o'clock. It's been a hot, sticky night, so I thought I'd come up early and have a look at a few roses and see what the bees are doing this month. So we'll just have a look at some roses up at the top here, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the bees. The first rose we'll have a look at is this one, a hybrid musk rose called Felicia. It was raised by the Reverend Pemberton in 1928. The dear old Rev, he raised several roses. I think there's about 6 of them between his sermons, and every one was a beauty. This one is, and it will repeat flower as well. It's a hybrid musk rose. Across here we've got another rose, much older rose. This one is the Queen of Denmark. It was raised in 1826, so it's a very old rose. And the family is the family of the Alba roses. The Albas are tough roses that will grow anywhere, even in shade. No black spot, no mildew on these sort of roses, and they go back as far as the Middle Ages. An ancient rose, the Alba. And going across here to another rose, this is Rosa Rosette, a Portland rose. This one is good because it's a repeat flowering rose. Again, tough as old boots, will grow anywhere. Lovely scent. And this one here, this is the oldest rose I've got in our garden. This one goes back to 1786. It's Charles de Mills. This group of roses are the Gallica roses, and these roses were grown in the earliest of times. The Greeks and the Romans knew these roses. In fact, they're depicted on the shields of Persian warriors 1000 BC. This rose especially, Charles de Mills, grew in Empress Josephine's garden, Napoleon's wife, so she knew this rose. It's a strange one because it's quite flat, isn't it? But a beautiful rose. What wild centuries drove back the roses. This one here, which is a sort of overhanging Charles de Mills a bit, is a rambling rector rose. It's rambled so much it's sort of pulled the cotoneaster that it's growing on over a little bit. What a beautiful sight. And although the sun's not on it yet, the bees like this one because they can get into the single flowers and get to the nectar. So when the sun moves around a bit, this rose is full of bees, which is where I was going to go next. I've taken the top off of this beehive to show you what actually is going on inside. Don't worry, there's no bees hopefully in this one. The bees enter around the back here through this hole, and this is called the brood chamber. This is where the queen lives. She lays her eggs on these frames here. She can't escape out of there because this goes over the top. This is a queen excluder. The queen's slightly bigger than the workers, so she can't get through there. So on top of there we put what we call the supers, which have got all the honey in, so they're not contaminated with any eggs or grubs. I've put a super in the summer house here so we can have a closer look at it, and I can show you how we exclude the honey from the frames. But first of all, just a few little points about these worker bees. When they're about 3 weeks old, they set off foraging. Some of them will be going for pollen, and some of them will be going for nectar. They'll travel up to 2 miles, sometimes 5 miles away from the hive, looking for the nectar and pollen. As you probably know, when they get back, they do a dance to tell the others where they found a good source. The nectar is taken in by the bees into their honey stomach. They've got 2 stomachs. The honey stomach is filled with enzymes which start to break up the nectar and take the water content from it. On their journey back, if they get tired, then they are able to transfer some of that nectar from the honey stomach into their own stomach to give them some energy to get back home. A worker bee will live for about 6 weeks in summer, and it'll have travelled about 300 miles. The amount of honey that it's collected in that time will probably cover about 1/12 of a teaspoon. So you can see you need an awful lot of journeys and an awful lot of bees to make a pound of honey. In fact, to make 1 jar of honey, they estimate that the bees will have travelled 50,000 miles. That's like twice round the world to make 1 jar of honey. Isn't it wonderful? As I get older, the wonder of nature doesn't get less, it just increases with every passing year. Let's have a look at these supers. Now, I brought one super in here, and on it, on one of the frames, we can see, hopefully, the honey. You see it all glittering there, and when the bees have brought it in, they regurgitate it and give it to the house bees, which are younger bees, and they pass it from mouth to mouth, across from bee to bee, and gradually the moisture content is removed. It was 70% moisture when the bees got the nectar, and it's down probably now to 20%. When the nectar and the honey is placed in here, then other bees start flapping their wings like mad to dry it out until all the moisture content is gone, and then it's capped over like this with a wax which they make from resin from trees, and then it'll last for a very long time because it can't go off, it can't go mouldy. So we take those frames out when they're all capped over, and we put them into a spinner here. This is the spinner. It just takes 3 frames. You can see that we put them in there, and then we just turn the handle around very fast, and centrifugal force throws all the honey out to the sides of this spinner. It runs down to the bottom, and it comes out of the tap here through some filters, and you've got liquid gold. That's where we're going to stop today, and tomorrow we'll have a look at some more of the roses. June's a strange month because the spring flowers are over and the summer flowers are really yet to come out fully, but there's some out, so we'll have a look at some more roses and some flowers next time.